So people that are more likely to endorse that they are victims and that they are good people are or also more likely to endorse that their emotions should be respected and appreciated and accepted by other people. Rob, how have you been?
Good. It's a chilly day here in St. Louis. It snowed a total of like 2 or 3 inches, and my kid's school was inexplicably closed today. So good start to the winter.
Would you love the extra time with the kids? It's probably calm and relax around the house.
I wish I could say that I did anything, but at 5 o'clock in the morning when I got the message from the school, an hour later I texted my parents and said, "Hey, what are you guys up to today?" And
Oh,
so
that's
my
good.
my parents watched the kids.
Oh, well,
Um,
good.
but it's nice. It's cozy. I'm drinking some tea from a nice branded shrink space cup that my wife got me last year. So
Oh, we need to get a merch thing going on here.
let's do it. Well,
Yep.
you know how to do merch. Go ahead. That's your task.
I want I think I'm the only one that bought the Pop Psych merch, but I really I really enjoy it. Okay. And when I was making it, I was thinking like, oh man, this is gonna fly off the shelves. I'm less the designer than I thought I was.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the best of us learn from experience.
Yes. Now, so I've been excited about this podcast today. Okay.
Okay.
We are, let me just, I'll say this. I have a feeling that you and I are going to are going to get into trouble as a consequence of today's topic. Okay.
Okay.
But I think it's a
I,
fun
I
topic to
I
discuss.
can't wait.
Before we do that though, I did find we've been looking on Reddit for stories that help us, give advice.
Hmm.
So I've got a situation I would like you to respond to. And the question is,
Okay.
Rob Patterson, my past infidelity has came to life. I need
Okay.
advice on how to save my relationship with my husband and my sister. A long time ago, after dating for years, my now husband, we'll call him Stuart, and I got married. It was his first deployment. He's in the military, and I didn't know how to handle not seeing him. I developed better coping systems since then. He's leaving on active duty now, but I understand now the importance of getting a friend group. I even got a dog to help when he's away. He only deployed one more time after that. In the past 2 years, he's been home. And now, with him leaving on active duty, we are finally about to get settled and move to DC, where we both have jobs. Bottom line, there's 3 deployments. The first one, she was less settled. Okay. I'm ashamed to say that during this first deployment, I was unfaithful to him. I was in a vulnerable state, and my sister's husband drove 3 hours to help me repair the patio. I had always had a crush on him, but I never thought of acting on it. Selfishly, we started
Uh-oh.
hooking up, and it haunts me to this day. We would find excuses for her to come down here, mainly to work around the house, and my sister, Jane, had to watch the baby. Well, my sister found out that he was cheating, but she didn't know it was with me and him hooking up because he gave her chlamydia, even though he was only supposed to be hooking up with me and obviously his wife, Jane. I usually take my sexual health very seriously, and I've never cheated before. But I realized that I was risking my marriage and my health, and I cut things off. Since then, I've made sure to be the perfect wife and sister. But my sister recently filed for divorce because her husband kept cheating on her. I guess he realized she wasn't taking him back, and in an effort to hurt her, he told her about our past. Just fucking evil. I can't believe he would say something just to hurt her because she won't tolerate his cheating anymore. My sister told my husband today, and everything blew up. He got a hotel, and my sister cursed me out, and he has told and has told me I am dead to her. She blocked me on everything. I've received calls from family members. My mom sent me a nasty message. My brother, almost everyone. My dad, though, has been very sympathetic, and I appreciate him for that. What do you do to save the relationship with your husband and sister?
So in that, does the husband know? Does the person who's writing this husband know?
Yeah, he's the one that. Yes,
Oh, I
yes.
thought the
Oh,
sister's husband went all
my
everywhere.
sister told my husband today, and everything
Okay.
blew up.
Okay, got it.
So he got a hotel.
Okay, sorry, I
So
misunderstood. He
it
got
is
the hotel.
yes. we've opened the kimono and we everybody knows what's
Yes,
going on.
and everything's on fire.
Mhm,
Oh
mhm.
my god. So your question is what again?
How does she save her relationship with her husband and her sister?
I think the short answer is she doesn't. I mean, can we just stop for a second and think? We've talked about cheating before on the show, infidelity in general, and why it might happen and all that kind of stuff. But it's a different level of infidelity when you are hooking up with your sister's husband.
Yes, it's really not good. I mean, my first reaction if I read that is she seems like a prolific narcissist. Like the tone of the email is, "I'm
Yeah.
so much better," and because I didn't have good coping, I was hooking up with this guy. Like there's a little bit of like I've matured, and then there's a flavor of it to me that feels like where she sort of thinks like we should all forgive and forget.
Y-
You know what I mean? Like why is my sister being such? My
Yeah.
sister really
Very
is.
convenient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my sister really holds on to these things. I can't believe it.
Well, I think I almost wonder if it's like wishful thinking. Like I wish
Yeah,
this would happen so that we can all get past this,
yeah.
not realizing that A, they may never get past it, and B, if they do, you've had months to think about what you did and how it was a pretty shitty thing to do.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
you want these people who are affected by this, especially your sister who got, you know, railroaded on, you know, from multiple people, ex-husband and her sister. Like, what do you think she's going to do?
I thought it was really interesting that she called her sister evil because the sister told her husband. Couldn't believe that her sister would do that. And it's like,
Yeah, at first you said narcissist, and I'm like, eh, I don't know that I would describe that person
hold on,
as
I got it
a
wrong.
narcissist.
The guy she cheated with told. He was the evil one, she said, not the sister.
Okay,
I got that
okay,
wrong.
gotcha. Okay, well, yeah, then narcissist might be a strong word for her. I don't know that I would describe her that way. I would say she's impulsive,
Mhm.
fragile. I don't know. Why do you think she's a narcissist?
I think because there's too much in the way of explaining why the external circumstances that happened before
Yeah,
and the assumption that they're not happening now and the reasons for it not happening now. Like if you look at when she was saying, like, I realize that I'm putting things at risk right now. I'm risking our health, my husband's health, my health. Just
okay,
feels a bit egocentric. And it's such an to me,
yeah,
it's such an egregious thing to do to hook up with your sister's husband while your husband's
yeah.
deployed. So I'm not sure what she could say where I wouldn't have I'm like defaulting to that kind of a I mean, in my book, she's either a massive asshole and she's viciously mean, and that's not good, or she's a narcissist where she's less mean, but she's just so self-oriented that she doesn't understand the gravity of what she's doing.
There has to be a third option that maybe is directionally related to your second option there. Self-centered, self-focused. I don't know a ton of people in her situation, but if I just create this schema in my head of someone who is married and then their partner is gone for long periods of time
Mhm.
and they feel alone and uncomfortable and whatever it is I wonder if we look this up like a stat. What is the frequency of infidelity with married couples in the military? If I had to guess, I
It's
would say
probably
it's
high.
higher than average.
Yeah. Okay. This, by the way, is why my mother-in-law likes you more than she likes me. This sensitive, big picture, thoughtful style of yours. She's really gonna like
I think she will, and I've always liked your mother-in-law,
that.
because of that. But no, I think that's it. Is yeah, it
Well,
could be
hold on.
narcissist, but it could just be a lonely person who makes dumb, impulsive decisions.
But to hook up repeatedly with your sister's husband?
I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm not defending the action, and I'm not saying that you should be, engaged in infidelity and then do it with your sister's husband. But I'm saying there is a world in which for her that was an easy action to take.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
apparently if he's all around town doing this anyway, she probably didn't have to look too hard for it.
Okay. Okay.
Like it didn't seem like she was seducing him.
Right. He must have made it clear that he was
He
interested.
was down to clown.
He was we're gonna that's gonna be the title of this video, Down to Clown. All right,
So,
so do you have
I
a
think
what's a
that's my measured reaction to it, for your mother-in-law. But if I had to be a bit more reactive
mhm,
like you, I would say sometimes when I read these stories and someone is putting themselves out there, it's a vulnerable thing to do, I get. But it does seem like they're looking for it's for sympathy,
yeah,
which that's the part I'm like, all right, well, don't try to like get sympathy. Like you fucked up.
yeah,
Don't look for sympathy
yes,
in that situation. Like own what you did.
yeah, which I think would be that's sort of my answer to her about how do I get my husband and sister back? I think the answer is you're probably not. I don't care how, and don't frantically call them now thinking you're going to explain it away.
Yep.
I think the position needs to be, I fucked up in a big way. I get it, and I'm gonna accept the consequences. I think that has to be the position, because the husband and the sister are gonna take a long time to heal from that.
Yeah.
You know,
A long time, if ever.
I
That
I
that that
don't.
is one of the crazier stories I think we've had
Yeah,
on our show here. That is a dumpster fire of a situation.
I always think about it like, have you ever heard or do you believe that you find people that are like you? You sort
Yeah,
of
I
move
kinda
the world and bump into people, and there's a way that we sort of can clock, is someone like me? And you're attracted to people that are like you.
yeah, yeah, it's like a like me bias.
Yeah, like, I
Yep.
think about, if I wanted to go out and have an affair, I'm not sure where I would start. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not
Mhm.
I'm not thinking, "Hey, I'd like to go have an affair," and I know exactly it's Susie down the street. I would have no right? But then there are some people like this guy who's had 8 affairs. Somehow he's bumping into these women that are willing to engage in infidelity a around every corner. And then there must be some kind of, I don't know, pheromone he's putting off where he finds people that are into that kind, like, he must have sensed something in her that told him this is someone I should be pursuing.
Yeah, that is the interesting question is how does that even start? How does
Right.
that topic how do you broach that topic? Because I can see if it's just some random person, I mean, I'm sure you just go find that online. What was the name of that website, from a long it was like a woman's name,
Ashley Madison.
Ashley Madison, yeah, right? I mean, that's probably just one of like 500 sites where you can go find like a random person to hook up with. But
Yeah.
I think the curious part is how do you start that with a family member?
Right. That's a high risk. I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
if my I hope that if I started hitting on my sister-in-law, she would run to my wife and be like, "David's a problem." Like, there it's a that's a high risk, behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah,
My
that's like
guess
a
is
plus
that
one.
the, dynamics in that house are not super stable.
Yeah, probably didn't start off very healthy.
No. Bottom line is that lady, the writer, is in big trouble.
Yes.
Speaking of trouble, what we might get us into trouble is talking about today's topic. So we're gonna try to move this ship, and we're gonna talk about a topic that I've grown interested in called virtuous victimhood signaling. Virtuous
Virtuous
victimhood signaling.
victimhood signaling. Okay.
Yes. So this is the idea. Researchers have shown that when somebody positions themselves as a victim and simultaneously positions themselves as morally good,
Mm-hmm.
that we as a society around that person want to protect them. We protect them. So we sort of try to support them,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, give them money, give them work, give them jobs, whatever, give them support.
Mm-hmm.
We don't criticize them. And we assume that they are very good people. So on the face, if I just say that people who present themselves as victims and morally good, society around that person will assume that they need to be protected and supported. They won't criticize them, and we believe that they're better people.
Yep.
So essentially what the research is saying is that we are granting those people status in our
Okay.
society. Those are the markers of what makes somebody successful. Some examples, okay? Britney Spears was a cultural icon, total badass,
Mm-hmm.
best pop star in the world in 1999 or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then she shaved her head and went a little bit on the cuckoo side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Paparazzi, we love to see somebody fall. Paparazzi's taking pictures, and she essentially destroys her career,
Mm-hmm.
stops making music. No one is thinking about her or caring about her. Then it becomes public that she is in this battle with her dad over the conservatorship.
Yep.
Her rights have been stripped from her, and her dad is now in charge of all of her financial, of everything, not just financially, is in charge of everything. And all of a sudden, she is painted no longer as the person who was unhinged, slamming umbrellas into cars. She's now positioned as this victim
Yeah.
who always was well intended, just wanted to entertain, and this Free Britney movement started, and her stock has skyrocketed.
You know what this reminds me of? That like one of the first videos I remember seeing, like a meme, the "Leave Britney Alone."
Yes,
Remember that? Yeah.
yes, the guy's like crying, "Leave
Leave
Britney."
Britney alone. Yeah.
Yes,
Anyway, sorry.
yes.
I was
So the
laughing
so
in my head.
so the question is, and you can think of a lot of examples where people aren't doing well, and then they position themselves as a victim, and all of a sudden things get better.
Yeah.
The way that we view them gets better.
Mm-hmm.
If you like, even people that are publicly not well liked, if they find a way to distort reality a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
turn themselves into victims, we're much more sort of appreciative or accommodating of whatever they've been through.
So is this more likely to happen when someone like makes a mistake or does something, like fucks up some way,
Hmm.
and then they try to apologize by being the victim, or how does because like in the Britney Spears example, I mean, she wasn't, to the extent that I know, I didn't follow it too closely, but I mean, she wasn't out there trying to promote the fact that her dad had taken over, right? Or
Hmm.
was she?
She wasn't the one that was that was driving that narrative, but the narrative came out, and as a consequence, her stock rose. But to answer your question, I don't think that you have to position yourself as, I'm sorry, I don't think you have to have made a mistake for this to work. It works. The example I was doing research on this that came up was, Chapel Roan, the
Hmm.
musician, right? Not very popular for a long time. Very, very niche, not a huge audience. And then part of her kind of marketing ploy or strategy was to describe the music industry as a bullying system where popular culture, the music industry,
Hmm.
whatever, society as a whole had been bullying her. And when she made that shift, her stock rose. It just skyrocketed. She's getting VMAs, and she's running shop.
VMAs. They could tell you're a millennial.
Mhm.
I wonder if that's even on anymore.
I don't know. She's very successful as a consequence.
Um,
Justin Bieber, right? Super popular, then sort of not popular. Then all the stuff comes out about the relationship and the trauma he had with Diddy. Justin Bieber's stock,
mhm.
he is now viewed as somebody that we sort of all love. The negativity around Bieber has disappeared.
Okay. So I guess I was misinterpreting it as you are actively trying to kind of change the narrative, but maybe that's not true. Maybe the individuals here, the Britneys, the Justins, the Chapels aren't. Chapel Roan maybe is, but the others aren't necessarily trying to change the narrative. The narrative is just changed.
Well, I guess that's the sort of the first part of the conversation I wanted to have with you is this a bad thing? Like, or do we look at it and go, well, of course, if somebody's a victim, we should protect them. This is all, I've given a bunch of examples and maybe we look at all of them and go, it seems really socially adaptive for us to
Hmm.
protect people that signal that they are victims and that they are good people.
Yeah.
Do you see any downside with this?
Of this victimhood, this virtuous victim signaling.
The fact that positioning yourself as a victim, unintentional or not, brings you status.
Yeah, and I think this is where my questions or my questions and clarity come from is what I go to is how people would manipulate this to making it work for them. The other thought that I have, and I think we've talked about it on this show before, is the cultural phenomenon that has occurred over the last, I don't know, I'll say decade or so, maybe a little bit longer, of this need to support people, particularly those who are being a bit more vulnerable and open, to show them empathy, support, and validation. I think this goes back to even some of the work that we do, right? You know, we talk about the importance of psychological safety in the workplace. We talk about the importance of being an authentic, more vulnerable leader. I mean, we work with people in construction, and God, when I'm talking to these leaders, almost all of them will talk about the importance of being vulnerable, which I think if you talk to a lot of leaders 10, 15 years ago, no one would have said that.
Mhm.
And broadly speaking, I think directionally that makes sense, right? The more open and transparent and vulnerable you are, the better the connection you're going to make with other people.
Right.
However, the reason I'm talking about this is I think that that can also be manipulated given where we are as a society right now and our desire to support other people. And that's where I'm going. So to answer your question 5 minutes later, yes, I think there's a downside to it, and that's the downside.
Well, I want you to know that I'm really happy that you said that because remember I said this is going to get us into trouble. That was the thought that I thought was going to get us into trouble. To have a couple of straight white guys talking about how when these victims start really yammering on about how hard their lives are, it's really inconvenient for the rest of us. So
Yeah.
that's the problem. That's the dynamic is like I'm obviously exaggerating there, but that's the dynamic is you look at it and go, well, wait a second. If positioning yourself as a victim brings you status, well, then does that mean that people will claim victimhood when they're actually not victims? And then it's an artificial thing just to get the status.
Yeah.
So an example of someone who tried to do that would be Jesse Smollett, however you pronounce his last name,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
right?
Yes.
Like very intentionally. I mean, I know he denies it, but I think, as far as I know, the data's pretty
Allegedly.
overwhelming. Allegedly, he positions himself as a victim of a hate crime, and he's very tearful when the cops come, and he positions himself as a good person that's been taken advantage of because he wanted increased status. So
But
here's the
so for people who may not know, but what allegedly what actually happened?
my understanding of the story of what allegedly happened. I wonder how often we can say allegedly. But I believe, I think it was at 2 o'clock in the morning, was very hungry, and as you do at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the winter in Chicago, you walk to a Subway and you get yourself a Subway sandwich. And on the way back, as they are in Chicago, there was a couple of big white dudes driving around with MAGA hats on that screamed out expletives, punched him, threw bleach on him, and put a noose over his neck. Threw bleach on him. I think that's right. Then he went home, called the police, and he was there in his apartment or whatever, still with the noose around his neck. We later find out that he had set the whole thing up. There was no one with MAGA hats on. Instead, it was his friends that he had a romantic relationship with, potentially. Um, and he had asked them
Allegedly.
to do it, allegedly. There were also people of color. It was totally made up. And the people that, his friends had said, look, he set this up. So he destroyed his career because it came out. But the goal was to increase status by
Yeah.
positioning himself as a victim.
Yeah. To generate some sort of moral outrage
Yes.
around this. And I don't remember exactly when this happened, but this was, like 5, 6 years ago, right? So this is more in the height of, at least in the United States, the racial conversations.
Yeah, I
Right.
think it was right on the heels of George Floyd,
Mhm.
that kind of I I I may have that wrong, but I think that's right. That
Yeah,
sounds right to
it
you?
was a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
it
yeah.
was a bit more of the time as well.
Mhm. But Jesse Smollett is I think, an extreme example, but psychologists have started studying this idea of victimhood siblings, virtuous victimhood signaling, and looked at, like, well, what other characteristics are correlated with it? And then one of the number one things that's correlated with it is emotional entitlement, which is really interesting. So people that are more likely to endorse that they are victims and that they are good people are or also more likely to endorse that their emotions should be respected and appreciated and accepted by other people. Emotionally entitled people think that they have the ability to have whatever emotional experience they have, and that the people around them should be deferential or appreciative or receptive to that emotional expression.
Maybe said in a simpler way, it's, I every emotion that I have is natural and important, or whatever, and that needs to be validated.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you have the now there's chicken or the egg. Is somebody that is emotionally entitled more likely to position themselves as a victim? Or if you're positioning yourself as a victim, are you more likely then to feel like you're emotionally entitled? I don't know which one comes first or what it's just a correlation. But the fact that those two things exist together, I think it adds credence to what your concern was, which is, well, how do you control whether or not someone's really a victim? Or are we just supporting people that don't really need the support? Are we elevating people that don't actually need the elevation?
Right. And to go back to your chicken or egg comment, maybe another factor there is, are those people who need to be validated? And it seems to me that that would be where it starts. Someone who needs to be validated, and then this is just one way to be validated among the many ways that there are to be validated for someone who is on the more sensitive emotional side of things. So I would say that. And then, I'm sure that people who score high on, what was the term you used again? Emotional what?
Emotional entitlement.
Entitlement. So people who kind of index high there, I would imagine look for different outlets for that. And here can find one.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then add to it I brought my soapbox with me, add to it kind of a social media landscape that we find ourselves in. 25 years ago, what outlet did you have other than talking to family or friends to get that validation?
Yeah.
But now you have the expanse of the internet
Yeah. Right.
to get that
Yeah.
validation.
And that I think is which we'll talk about kind of, well, how does this go
Okay.
bad?
Yeah.
But the social media piece of this, I think, adds an interesting wrinkle, which I hadn't thought about. But in a perfect world, there's some kind of emotional friction or conflict or whatever. And then you turn to the people around you and they give you feedback about whether or not your experience is reasonable or whether or not it's not. And there's sort of a reality that we are all dependent on the people around us to help us calibrate our responses, our behaviors and our responses. Like that's the role, for example, that like when you have a young child, a big part of your role as a parent certainly is to nurture them, but it's also to help them think about their emotions. That's
And their
true.
impact on the world around them.
Right. And that's true for adults too. Like we always need feedback. With the internet, kind of no matter what your emotional expression is, you're going to have some lunatic that tells you you are totally right. I guarantee you that poster, oh, here's the segue to the Reddit thing. I guarantee you that there are some people that responded to her and said, "You're not a bad person. I feel really bad for you. Your sister should loosen up." I guarantee
Mhm,
you she got someone to respond that
mhm.
way. And so there's no effective calibration.
Allow me to go on a bit of a tangent. We'll come back. But this is similar to a conversation I was having with someone recently. And this person was talking about going to therapy. So, you know, the couple was going together and then they were seeing a therapist separately. I can't remember if it's the same person or not. But at least in the couples session, the person I was talking with got was getting frustrated that the therapist just kept validating everything. Yes, I understand. Yes, I understand. What do you think? Yes, I understand. I could see how that happens. And I think the person I was speaking with was just hoping like, "Well, can you provide some direction? I mean, we know there's not a right or wrong always, but how should we be seeing this
Right.
differently?
Right.
And not to score keep, but I mean, am I right or is she right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, tell me either way."
Mhm. Mhm.
But saying this just got me thinking, kind of just you were saying before that I'm sure someone's validating the Reddit person. And it just makes me think that, even given what we do, there is a lot of chatter in the psychology world about validation
Yeah.
and how it's important, certainly a critical component. And you would know this more than me, but of like, therapeutic relationship. But at what point does it go too far?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at what point is it the role of someone, a therapist in this situation, or just like a friend or family member to say, "Hey, I mean, I love you and you're really fucked up."
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a real I mean, in my mind, I think that is like it's one of the big flaws with this dynamic where where we elevate people that position themselves that way.
Yeah.
But the truth is it's not like I don't think, maybe push back on me on this, but I don't think that this is we're just starting to study it, but I don't think that virtuous victimhood signaling is a new idea. Like psychologically, we're built to protect victims.
Yeah. And just
So
to protect the people around us. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like I guess I don't know. I don't know that we would just all of a sudden started doing this. I just know that it happens, and I guess to your point, maybe I don't know. You know what I was thinking about when you were talking about like our work. One of the things that I've noticed a lot is that I have clients that are I feel like the current, kind of director and VP level leader is in
Hmm.
a really difficult spot
Yeah.
because they were raised in their careers by very harsh, very blunt, very directive, my way or the highway leaders, in general.
Yeah.
But the future generation, the Gen Z leaders, require a different kind of support and leadership. They are requiring a more empathetic, more supportive, more tolerant leadership environment or work environment. So you have these leaders that were raised one way,
Yeah.
but they're having to, in the workplace, parent in a very different way.
Hmm.
Whereas for the next generation, for the Gen Zs, when they're the leaders, they'll be used to this more, supportive style of leadership. So I guess I make the point in saying like I feel like we're in this transition where we used to be much more aggressive, less empathetic, less emotional, more directive, and we're making this transition to uh, elevating and supporting vulnerability, and we're focusing on empathy, I think, which largely is really good. But I guess I wonder, as a society, are we over indexing on it, where now we are encouraging people to lean into their
Yeah.
victimhood? That I think is the concern.
I think it certainly can be. I want to go back to your point about, leaders and Gen Z. It is different, and I'd argue though that generations before us experienced something similar. The whatever they were experiencing was different, but that shift in what people were looking for, you brought this up before, right? Is work a long time ago was just let me make money and go home, and then we
Yeah.
started to add different needs.
Yes.
Each generation added some different
Yeah.
need that we our expectation to work.
Yeah. I forget what I had like a breakdown of it, but it's like, you know, the silent generation just wanted a paycheck.
Yeah,
And then the boomer generation wanted a paycheck, and they wanted a good work environment.
right.
And then Gen X wanted a paycheck, a good work environment, and meaning. And then millennials wanted a good paycheck, a good work environment, meaning, and whatever,
Something else.
something else.
Yeah,
And the expectations constantly shift into a more and more, maybe not more and more, but just a different expectation.
yeah. And so I think you're right, and it's not new.
Yeah.
But I think your question is correct in that, sometimes, like anything else, it's not a is this a right or wrong way of doing it. It's generally speaking, being more open and vulnerable and understanding is a good thing, but it can go too far.
Let me make one more argument for it being a problem. Just in case we didn't get in trouble, the two of us, I got one more reason why I think it might be a problem. I worry that if we have created a culture where being a victim leads to status, that people will be less incented not to be victims. So if I've been through something, am I more likely to say, "Hey, I'm going to lean into the fact that that I'm a victim. I'm going to communicate that I'm a victim. I'm going to confidently talk about that and get the status." Am I therefore less likely to develop resilience, go to therapy, focus on myself to get myself out of that victim mentality? Do you think it distorts how we respond to distress?
I would say theoretically, yes, it certainly could. Because like if it was me, that would be a problem for me to solve.
If you felt like a victim.
Yeah. Outside of just situationally feeling like I was in a victim role, then that would be something I would want to understand and change. But if I have a different personality and I feel reinforced or supported by this, then I don't think it's something I need to change. It feels good. And I'm
Yeah.
looking again for that validation. And that's not a bad thing. It's just where I'm getting that validation. It's A, not sustainable, and B, likely to have ripple effects in other parts of my life.
Yeah.
That will almost kind of ironically reinforce the need for me to get this validation online as opposed to the people
Mhm.
in my sphere.
Yeah. This is a little bit off topic, but just when you were talking, it made me think, how much more common it is today for people to have service animals. Like we as a society, I think we have moved to the harm reduction model of dealing with individual distress. And you could like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there's definitely a move towards what's going to help you right now feel better. There is a I think there's a sort of a decided move away from what is better for you long term. Do you agree with that
It,
takeaway?
it, I do. And it's part of the reason when we talked about parenting styles a while back, one of the values or lenses that I try to have for my kids is resilience. Now, it's easy for my kids, at least thus far. You know, yeah, they have their issues like any kid does, but nothing too drastic that I know of. But part of the reason I think resilience can be important is because I do tend to see in the world around me kids in particular who seem less resilient, who seem more affected by very minimal hurdles that they encounter. So I'm not going to say something specific about a service animal. I've noticed that too. And if it helps someone, it's a
Right.
pretty
That's the other side of the coin. It's a very easy thing to do,
yeah,
and it helps a lot of people. I'm not saying we should get rid of them,
yeah,
but there has been a cultural shift.
right. But I think the bigger issue is, when is that a helpful tool for
Mhm.
someone,
Mhm.
and when is it potentially a crutch?
Yeah.
And then without knowing the idiosyncrasies of the individual, it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I want to go back to what we were saying before. So, like a victimhood mentality, it seems to have been heightened more if you take that and you intersect that with kind of a focus on identities, which I would also say over the past 10 or 15 years has come into focus, particularly in our area of work
Mhm.
as psychologists, but I think it's expanded kind of just outside of our sphere as well. And I don't know how to explain this in a clear way, but some of just what I observe is sometimes folks, like I work with a lot of, again, white guys who will then look for ways in which they're different, potentially as a way to feel or to try to gather or garner support.
Give me an example. What do you mean?
So, if in a world where being a straight white guy versus being a, you know, a gay white woman, if that person, because of their historically marginalized status, gets more support,
Yes.
and I observe that, say,
Yeah.
"Well,
Oh.
God, I'm not getting any support. I wonder what's different and unique about me
Mhm.
that could then help me feel more seen, understood, and supported. I'm going to go try to find that thing
Yeah.
because identities are more important, are more top of mind for us now, at least
Oh,
in
I
the
see what you're
US.
saying. Yes.
And so I have a couple examples that probably stand out too much in my head because it was a more of a leap for me when I would hear these individuals talk about some of these unique identities that they have. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, that is an identity. I don't think it makes you all that different, but I
Yeah.
wonder why you're searching for that.
Yeah.
And to me, it goes back to this need to feel supported because right now they didn't feel supported.
We should do a separate podcast on identities because I think you're right that never before. It's interesting. I think that my bias would be that I think that white people feel like never before has identity been so important. I don't think that a person of color would think
Yeah.
that, you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
depends on what your lens on it is, but it would
Sure.
be good for us to have a conversation about that. And I do think it has definitely entered like my conversations as an executive coach, and it definitely enters the conversation when it comes to hiring and developing leaders. I mean, it's a huge deal in corporate
Yeah.
America.
I mean, and we work with people who will sometimes, even start a coaching engagement by just talking about someone's identities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's different than I'm sure most coaching engagements that would have occurred 10 to 15 years ago.
I think I'm all out of thoughts about that. Anything I'm missing as it relates to this virtuous victimhood signaling?
I guess a question I have for you is, how do you distinguish between someone who is signaling versus someone who's actually in need of support? What's the difference there?
I think that that's I guess the big problem with it is that somebody who is a real victim, their story gets minimized if everybody's a victim. The fact that it's difficult to tell who the real victim is, and we then have to have kind of this like skeptical eye of, does this person actually need support? I mean,
Yeah.
the support animal is like a great example. 10 years ago, you saw somebody walking with a emotional support dog. You think this person needs the support. I'm glad
Hmm.
they have. I'm happy to give you space on the plane. Now, when I'm on a plane and I've got to move my feet up because someone's got to bring on a 90-pound black lab, I'm freaking annoyed
Yeah.
because I think that they're just some histrionic person that's creating drama around them.
Yeah.
But they may actually be someone who's terrified to get on the plane and they need the, so it becomes really difficult to discern.
Yeah.
So that's not a good answer, but I mean, I think it's a problem.
I guess I'm focusing more on some of these celebrity examples that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I can't come up with any others, but I think most of us have seen these PR written statements that when someone does something ridiculous, they come out and they will, say, yes, I accept responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But people who may be doing this say, and people are out for me, or
Yeah.
and you don't understand
Yep.
what's actually going on. And some of
Yep.
that could be true. But all that to say, in my mind, what may differentiate kind of this signaling versus something different is someone who's actually taking responsibility. Like if I make a mistake and then I take responsibility for it, I don't think I'm seeking that support. I mean, maybe I am, but I'm just acknowledging what I did. I'm taking responsibility for my actions, and maybe I'm going to describe what I'm going to do differently. But if I sit there and wallow in the emotion, that I think is at least one way that differentiates someone who's actually trying to acknowledge what's going on and not seeking that victimhood versus someone who is.
The willingness to have some accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's probably, I would say, accountability, and then are they taking some action to resolve?
Yep.
Right? Like if you are, I mean, it doesn't feel, to be a real victim does not feel good.
Yeah.
And so you would try to resolve it. You would try to address it. You try to move beyond it.
Yeah.
So if somebody is wallowing and making no movement, that would also be a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I also wonder, this could also be a separate episode, but what we haven't really talked about is, we've talked about the internet a little bit and social media, but what else about our current environment may allow for this more? And I wonder if part of it is just more of that, gotcha moment.
Mhm.
Like there isn't a lot of room for subtlety and nuance
Mhm.
on social media.
Yeah.
So as I'm scrolling through Reddit, all I'm looking at is a headline. I'm like, oh, well, this person, they're terrible.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
So what is my incentive to accept responsibility for something?
Yeah. I think I think it's zero. There's
Yeah.
very little incentive.
Yeah. If I'm a a public personality,
Yeah.
let me save my ass first, see if it
Yeah. I
works.
mean, right. Yeah. 100%.
So anyway, that was just another thought going through my head.
Yeah.
But yeah. Otherwise, yeah, this is a fascinating topic that I think could spur a bunch of other topics for us to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I think the identity one, I think, will be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Rob, that's all I have for you.
Thanks, Dave. That was a good one.
Thanks for talking.
Yep. And if you want to continue hearing amazing conversations like this one, you can follow us at Shrink Space wherever you get podcasts, or of course here on YouTube. You can also find us on social media at Shrink Space Show, wherever you go on social media. Obviously, must not go on social media because I can't come up with anything
You can't even name
about
them.
this eloquently. Yeah. Are we on
Facebook,
Reddit yet?
Facebook, Instagram. We are not on Reddit. You could lead that Reddit feed. You could moderate it, Rob. Facebook,
God,
Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok.
that
We're
sounds like a
everywhere.
lot of
We
work.
are ubiquitous.
Yeah, it
Or
sounds like a
why?
lot of work.